We have just a couple more things to talk about in Adobe Camera Raw. Those are presets and snapshots. Now these snapshots work similar to some of the things that we already talked about in the history palette where we were undoing things and saving our spot. We can do a similar thing in Adobe Camera Raw, and we can even do more advanced things by saving presets. So let's hop into Photoshop, and what we're going to do is going to go open. We're going to open a file here. We're going to open conca.dng. This is a raw file. Let's open that up. And now we have our Adobe Camera Raw interface here. Now what we can do is at the very lower part here, we have snapshots. And you can see we have like this new little page here. That's to create a new one. And then, so let's work on this for just a second. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go in. We have this image. I'm going to change the color temperature just a little bit. And in fact, I'm going to make this a black and white image. And I think maybe that's what I want to do. I'm not quite sure. So what I can do is then go to snapshots and create a new snapshot. And I'm going to say this is black and white. So there we go. That's my black and white edit. Like, I'm not so sure about that. So now I'm going to go back to my edit menu. I'm going to put this back and take this off of that. Now I've got this weird color temperature. I'm going to see if I can fix that. I don't like these skin tones. Maybe let's make this a little bit blue. Ooh, that's sort of cool. Let's take these shadows up a little bit. Maybe the exposure up a little bit. Now there's something that I sort of like there. So without further ado, I'm going to say, that's my blue version. That's the blue thing I'm working on. So I'm going to click snapshot there. And I'm going to say this is my blue version. Okay, that's sort of cool. Now let's go back here and let's do a couple other things. Maybe this is a horizontal image and I want some color to come back, sort of a gray. But instead of this, I think what I'd like to do is, let's do a 5:7, more of a vertical shot. I'm going to make this really skinny. So I'm going to crop this in so it's really vertical. So now I've got a vertical image. That's cool. And then maybe one of the other things we can do here is go down here to the effects. And I want to put a vignette on this. Something like that. Okay, it's not perfect, but it's a new version. So I'm going to go in here to my snapshots, and then I'm going to say this is my vertical shot. So now in this, I have my blue version, got my black version, black and white, and my vertical. At any moment, I can go back to any of these edits and either open them in Photoshop or work on them a little bit more or do some things. Now, the other thing that you can do, let's say we have this black and white version. Notice that if I right click on that, I can update that with current settings. So let's say that I have the black and white and I want to do a little bit more to it. So in this black and white here, I want to go in and I want to take the shadows up a lot more than what we had. Maybe this exposure needs to go up really a lot more. I want to take the clarity up a lot more, the whites up a lot more. Okay, so I'm getting some different texture than I had before. I think that's a better black and white version. I can go back to this black and white, right click it, and I can say update it with my current settings. And so I've just made a new black and white snapshot of the things that I just did. And so you can always go in and make adjustments to these and update them. They're really cool. So I'm going to go here to my blue version. And let's say that I just like this sort of formula. I like the color temperature. I like the contrast. I like all the stuff. And maybe I'm going to be working on many, many different photos of this photo set. And I want to apply these to some future images. Maybe I'm going to have different models coming in. I don't have to recreate this over and over. What I can do is create a preset. So over here on the right-hand side, you see these two little circles here. And I can click on that. And now I have all these different things that show up. But what I want to do is I want to click on this little create preset. And then I want to create this blue model look. And then I want to put this in a group, my presets, Mark's presets. And then what I want to do is check all of the different things that I've done. So you can save just the basic adjustments. You can save all of the different optical things you can do. You can say, you know what, I want to make sure that I have my color grading or not. So you can choose to include or exclude all of these different things. I'm going to say I want to save everything and click OK. Now, what I can do is if I have a different image and I want to apply these things, so I'm going to say done. Then I'm going to open a different raw file. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to open a different file. And so let's say that we open juana.dng. Why not? Let's open that raw file. And now for this, I want to say I want to apply all those settings. Now they're probably going to look wacky because all of the adjustments were shot in a different studio and a different lighting setup. But let's just go to the mark presets and we have this blue model look. If I click on that, it's set all of those to this image. So the black background is blue, all that's cool. The other thing you'll notice here in these presets, I have a bunch of these that I've already created. So a lot of times when I'm creating, working on a series of images and I know I'm going to apply those same adjustments to other images, I'll just save a preset and then I can apply those to everything I do in the future. The nice thing is, as a side note, if you're working in Lightroom, the presets that you create in Lightroom also show up here in Adobe Camera Raw and vice versa. You can share those between the two applications. It's pretty cool. And also Adobe has presets that are built in. And so you've got color presets. You can say this is natural or bright or high contrast. You can do all of those different things. There's some creative presets in here, desaturated color, soft mist, warm. You got it. It's all there. There's also on the internet, there are marketplaces where you can buy presets for Adobe Camera Raw for wedding portraits, for scenic portraits, for all kinds of things. And so you can install those in Adobe Camera Raw and use those sort of off the shelf for people that have created a bunch of color grading and things. It's a really, really cool thing. As you work more and more in Photoshop, you're going to get more and more presets. You're going to build all of those things and include those in Adobe Camera Raw. Now there's one other thing I want to show you before we go here, and that is what if you're using an image that's not a raw image and you want all of the power of Adobe Camera Raw? Well, there's good news. So to show you this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Photoshop and I'm going to open a JPEG file. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to open juana.jpg. So this is not a raw file. In fact, let's do this. Let's open Cami in the Rain. It's a JPEG file. We know that for sure. There's no other version. We're going to open this file in Photoshop. I'm going to unlock the background as usual. So that is unlocked. And now we have this image here in Photoshop. Now what we want to do is we want to do all the adjustments that we would normally do in Camera Raw, but we can't because this is a JPEG file. The good news is if you go to Filter, you can see that there is a Camera Raw filter. If I click on that, you'll see that Camera Raw opens. Now I can do all of the things on a JPEG image that I used to do on a RAW image. Now there is a big difference here. So this is the same Camera Raw. You have all of the same tools. Everything is the same. So you can use that filter in Photoshop to do all the same adjustments, except it's not making an adjustment to a raw file. So you're not going to have the same bit depth. You're not going to have the same color information. You're not going to have the same resolution. And it's destructive. So when you make those images in Camera Raw in the filter and hit OK, they're applied to the image and they are there forever. So make sure you use non-destructive techniques if you use the Camera Raw filter. Create a new layer and then make all of those adjustments and then save it as a new layer. Or if you can, create a smart filter and use that instead. So there are different ways to use Camera Raw, not just with raw files. It's a really powerful tool that we'll be using later on when we do some image retouching here in Photoshop. So play with that quite a bit. Take these raw files that I've included, try adjusting them, saving presets, using the built-in presets, and then try using the Camera Raw filter and see what you get. You're going to have a lot of fun.